and everyone's going to find, their own thing that works for them. And for me, it was the Japanese concept of Ikigai, which is massively taken out of context and is under much debate with many people, including Westerners and the Japanese and Westerners that live in Japan and, Okinawa. Is this process of how you find your meaning, your purpose. Like the word Ikigai literally means your reason for being. And I just looked at that and thought that is the most practical application I can think of aligning my purpose and what gets me up in the morning, like what really makes me jump out of bed, alongside what keeps me up at night. Because sometimes you need that dark and light, and you've got to have both. And in business, sometimes we focus too much on what keeps me up at night. Sometimes you get a little bit too visionary and a bit too fluffy, and everything's about inspiration and what gets me out of bed in the morning. Ikigai, really simply, is just the act of trying to figure out how you align those two things by looking at 4 very distinct circles. It's spelled Ikigai for anybody listening. And it's what do I love and what does the world need? Combined with what am I good at and what do I get paid for? And the beautiful thing about that is usually what you're good at and what you get paid for should be your job. And hopefully that's a Venn diagram that overlaps a lot. Otherwise, like you're in the wrong thing. And sometimes people's jobs change. So those circles get further apart as you start moving and evolving and the world changes. But then on the other side, you've got your personal life, which is often the things you really love. Could be dance, could be ballet, could be art, playing with Lego, building stuff, coding, writing. And then what does the world need? So I went on a journey to figure out, first of all, I'm going to dump everything that I can think of in each circle independently. It's the best exercise in the world. And do it without technology and your favorite drink and lock yourself away with some good tunes. But then what you do is you start trying to figure out more and more of how can I get these circles to overlap? So what I love and what the world needs starts to overlap slightly with what am I good at and what do I get paid for? And what hopefully you'll end up with is a real purpose with a bunch of actions that you can do to bring that to life. And for me, that was inventing a new job, writing a new job description, doing a completely new learning track, changed loads of stuff in my life because you start to edit out all the stuff that doesn't exist where those 4 circles cross over. And that's really where you start to focus your time and get deliberate. And absolutely changed my life, and I've still got some practices and things that I do around that, but it's a brilliant process. It's really good.
Yeah, Jeremy's got an incredible sketch that he posted on LinkedIn about Ikigai, and it breaks it down in a lot of detail. Jeremy's posts in general on LinkedIn do that a lot, so we'll put that in the show notes. Definitely recommend looking at that. So obviously now you've got this role at IBM. Was that, you mentioned you kind of designed yourself a role, like you made yourself this like dream job. Was that the job you've got at the moment, or was there something before that after you did Ikigai?
It's a job I've got now. I mean, I was recruited at IBM as an evangelist. I was an evangelist at Salesforce and Adobe before then. And a lot of that was being involved in M&A and helping to roll out new technology, build marketing cloud platforms. And the evangelist was generally the person that helps to either write or author research and then go and do keynotes and try and spend time with clients. Like, here's what we do. Here's why it matters. Here's why it's amazing. Here's how it's going to help transform your business. Please buy it. But realized, first of all, IBM divested of all of that marketing technology, but also it's really interesting in America, and I'm going to make a massive generalization, but West Coast companies, so like a lot of California and a lot of the explosive growth Silicon Valley startups, to be an evangelist is not unusual. And often you're a superstar. They're the rock stars on the front lines trying to help inspire everybody. East Coast companies, which is where IBM's based, very different. And it's much more practical and much more business driven and heavily outcome focused, but also sometimes an overemphasis on sales. So you get somebody coming in like an evangelist and it's like, what do we do with this guy? So, and I give this advice to a lot of people within IBM a lot now, because the grass is always greener, right? You fall in and out with love with a company, of course you do. But every company's got its own set of problems as well. And my kind of slightly philosophical view of career trajectories is you often find yourself in the right company, but in the wrong job. And some great advice I was given by our former CEO, Ginny Rometty, was that the power of your network is greater than the value of the services that you provide. Now, if you've got a good enough network, then you can use that network to figure out where your dream job is. So that's basically what I did. So I've been at IBM almost 7 years, and it took me 5 years to figure out what my job was. So using the process of Ikigai, which is actually the diagram that we'll put in the show notes, and you'll see part of the job, you'll see some Simon Sinek stuff, you'll see the things that I love, you'll see alignment to sustainable development goals, which is funny that we're talking about that since I've got my SDG United Nations sweatshirt on today. And you'll see a lot of the stuff I was doing in my job, and that thing of where I got paid for, that alignment in the middle is what really ended up becoming communications designer. And in my, I love storytelling and script writing and entertainment, as you know, and Aaron Sorkin's one of my heroes, who wrote The West Wing and the Steve Jobs movie, and, you know, Social Network and Newsroom and a lot of those amazing shows. And there's a guy, Rob Lowe, played somebody called Sam Seaborn in The West Wing. And he's a communications director. And he's modeled on Ted Sorensen, who was JFK's communications director. But the beautiful part about that role, which felt like my dream job, was you're a policy advisor, you're trying to influence strategy, and you're in the room where it happens, sometimes with the C-suite, but at the same time, you're also a storyteller. You're a speechwriter, you're building narratives. And I thought those two worlds coming together with what I love and world needs, right, with what I'm good at and what I get paid for. So I literally took the job description of a fictitious character from a TV show, wrote it down, and turned that into my current job. There's quite a few communications designers now, but at the time I was the first one on LinkedIn. But I like the title. You know, I design communications, I draw speeches, I help people to communicate more effectively, tell stories that matter. And it's a good job.